The Jackson 5 are an American popular music family group from Gary, Indiana. Formed in 1964 under the name the Jackson Brothers, the founding members were Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon and Michael. After participating in talent shows and the chitlin circuit, they entered the professional music scene in 1967, signing with Steeltown Records, releasing 2 singles, before signing with Motown in 1969. Among the first groups of Black American performers to attain a crossover following, preceded only by the Supremes, the Four Tops and the Temptations, they made history in 1970 as the first recording act whose first 4 singles reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, with the songs, I Want You Back, ABC, The Love You Save, and I'll Be There. Scoring 17 top 40 singles on the Hot 100, after continuing with further hits such as Never Can Say Goodbye and Dancing Machine, most of the group with the exception of Jermaine, left Motown for Epic Records in 1975, where with brother Randy taking Jermaine's place, they released 5 albums between 1976 and 1981, including the hit albums, Destiny and Triumph, and the hit singles, Enjoy Yourself, Shake Your Body, and Can You Feel It? In 1983, Jermaine reunited with the band to perform on Motown 25, Yesterday, Today, Forever, and subsequently released the Victory album the following year. Following the end of their tour to promote the album, Michael Jackson and Marlon Jackson promptly left the group. The remaining 4 released the poorly received 2300 Jackson Street album in 1989 before being dropped from their label. Inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1997 and the Vocal Group Hall of Fame in 1999, the Jacksons reunited in 2001 on Michael's 30th anniversary television special. Following Michael's death in 2009, the 4 eldest of the brothers embarked on their Unity tour in 2012. History, early years. The 5 Jackson brothers' interest in music took place in Gary, Indiana, bolstered by their father Joe Jackson. In 1964, Joe caught son Tito playing with his guitar after a string broke. Upon fixing the string, threatening punishment, Tito played for his father, who was impressed enough to buy Tito his own guitar. Tito, Jermaine and Jackie showed an interest in singing and formed their own group with their father naming them as the Jackson Brothers, with 6-year-old Michael playing congas and childhood buddies Raynor Jones and Milford Height playing keyboards and drums. Marlon, then 7, eventually joined playing the tambourine. In August 1965, before a show at Gary's Tiny Tots Jamboree held on Michael's 7th birthday, Evelyn LaHaye suggested the group rename themselves to the Jackson 5 singing group, later shortened to simply the Jackson 5. In 1966, the group won a talent show at Gary's Theodore Roosevelt High School, where Jermaine performed several Motown numbers, including The Temptations' My Girl, and Michael performed 2 James Brown numbers, including I Got You, winning the talent show instantly. Johnny Jackson and Ronnie Rancifer eventually replaced Milford Height and Raynor Jones. After several more talent show wins, Joe Jackson booked his sons to perform at several respected music venues of the chitlin circuit, including Chicago's Regal Theater and Harlem's Apollo Theater, winning the talent competitions on both shows in 1967. After they won the Apollo contest on August 13, 1967, singer Gladys Knight sent a tape of the boys' demo to Motown Records, hoping to get them to sign, only to have their tape rejected and sent back to Gary. In November of 1967, the brothers signed a deal with Gordon Keith's Steeltown Records, where they recorded and released 2 singles, I'm a Big Boy, and We Don't Have to Be Over 21. During early 1968, the brothers also performed at strip clubs on Joe's behest to earn extra income. While performing a week-long run of shows at the Regal Theater as the opening act for Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers, an impressed Taylor sent the Jacksons to Detroit to help with their Motown audition, which was set for July 23 at Motown's headquarters located at Woodward Avenue. Following the taped audition, which was sent to CEO Berry Gordy's office in Hollywood, Gordy requested the group to be signed, with final negotiations completed by early 1969, leading to the group to be signed on March 11. Following initial recordings at Detroit's Hitsville USA studio, Berry Gordy sent the Jacksons to Hollywood in July, hiring Suzanne de Passe to become a mentor of the brothers. Starting in August, they performed as the opening act for the Supremes, whose lead singer Diana Ross was planning to leave for a solo career at the end of the year. After performing at the Daisy in Los Angeles and at the Miss Black America pageant in New York, the group recorded their first single, I Want You Back, written by a newly assembled Motown team called The Corporation, which consisted of 3 composers and songwriters Freddie Perrin, Deke Richards and Alfonso Mizell, with Gordy as a 4th partner. In October, the song was released and the group promoted it while performing at the Hollywood Palace with Ross hosting. In December, the brothers made their first appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show. Afterwards, their debut album, Diana Ross Presents the Jackson 5, was released that same month. Jackson Mania. In January 1970, I Want You Back topped the Billboard Hot 100. Led by The Corporation, the Jackson 5 released 2 more #1 singles, ABC, and The Love You Save. A 4th single, I'll Be There, co-written and produced by Willie Hutch, became the band's 4th #1 single, making them the first recording act to have their first 4 singles reach the top of the Hot 100. All 4 singles were almost as popular in other countries as they were in the United States. Releasing a succession of 4 albums in 1 year, the Jackson 5 had replaced the Supremes as Motown's best-selling group. They will continue their success with singles such as Mama's Pearl, Never Can Say Goodbye, and Sugar Daddy, giving them a total of 7 top 10 singles within a 2-year period. Now Motown's main marketing focus, the label capitalized on the group's youth appeal, licensing dozens of products, including the J5 Heart logo located on Johnny Jackson's drum set, the group's album covers, stickers, posters and coloring books, as well as a Saturday morning cartoon series produced by Rankin Bass. Noting their lack of covers on otherwise predominantly white teen-oriented magazines including Tiger Beat and 17, a black publication, Right On began in 1971 and initially focused heavily on the Jackson 5, with at least all 5 members adorning a single cover between January 1972 and April 1974. In addition, the Jackson 5 appeared in several television specials including Diana Ross' 1971 special, Diana. Later that September, they starred on their first of 2 Motown-oriented television specials, Going Back to Indiana, with their second, The Jackson 5 Show, debuting in November the following year. During the Vietnam War period, the group often was joined by Bob Hope on USO-benefited performances to support military troops. To continue increasing sales, Motown launched Michael Jackson's solo career, with the single, Got to Be There, released in November 1971. Following several top 40 follow-ups, Jackson's 1972 song, Ben, became his first to top the charts. Jermaine Jackson was the second to release a solo project, his most successful hit of the period being a cover of the doo-wop song, Daddy's Home. Decline and exit. By 1972, despite Michael and Jermaine's solo successes, the Jackson 5's own records began plummeting on the charts. Partially credited to the changing musical landscape, the Corporation, which had produced most of their hit singles, split up in 1973. Focusing their attention on the emerging disco scene, the brothers recorded the charted song, Get It Together, followed immediately afterwards by their hit, Dancing Machine, their first to crack the top 10 since Sugar Daddy nearly 3 years before. Despite those successes, most of the Jackson 5's follow-ups were not as successful, and by 1973, Joe Jackson had grown tired of Motown's uneasiness to continue producing hits for the brothers. Jackson began producing a nightclub act around his sons and daughters, first starting in Las Vegas and spreading throughout the states. By 1975, most of the Jacksons opted out of recording any more music for Motown, desiring creative control and royalties. Learning that they were earning only 2.8% of royalties from Motown, Joe Jackson began negotiating to have his boys sign a lucrative contract with another company, settling for Epic Records, which had offered a royalty rate of 20% per record, signing with the company in June of 1975. Absent from the deal was Jermaine Jackson, who decided to stay in Motown. Randy Jackson formally replaced him. After initially suing them for breach of contract, Motown allowed the group to record for Epic, as long as they changed their name, since the Jackson 5 moniker was in ownership of Motown. The brothers settled as simply the Jacksons. The Jacksons CBS Epic Records, in November of 1976, following the debut of the family's weekly variety series, the Jacksons released their self-titled Epic debut under the Philadelphia International subsidiary, produced by Gamble and Huff. Featuring Enjoy Yourself, and Show You the Way to Go, the album went gold but failed to generate the sales the brothers had enjoyed while at Motown. A follow-up, Goin' Places, fizzled. Renewing their contract with Epic, the Jacksons were allowed full creative control on their next recording, Destiny, released in December 1978. Featuring their best-selling Epic single to date, Shake Your Body, written by Michael and Randy, the album sold over 1 million copies. Its follow-up, 1980's Triumph, also sold 1 million copies, spawning hits such as Lovely One, and Can You Feel It? In 1981, they released their fifth album, a live album that eventually sold 500,000 copies. The live album was culled from recordings of performances on their Triumph tour. In the middle of Destiny and Triumph, Michael Jackson released the best-selling solo effort, Off the Wall. Its success led to rumors of Jackson's alleged split from his brothers. After Triumph, Jackson worked on his second Epic solo release, which was released in November 1982 as Thriller, which later went on to become the best-selling album of all time. In March of 1983, with Jermaine, the Jacksons performed on Motown 25, Yesterday, Today, Forever, the same show where Michael debuted the moonwalk during a solo performance of Billie Jean. Following the success of the reunion, all six brothers agreed to record a sixth album for Epic, later released as Victory in 1984. Their biggest-selling album to date, it included their final top 10 single, State of Shock, which was actually a duet between Michael and Mick Jagger and didn't feature any other Jackson in participation, as did most of the songs on the album, with some exceptions, including the top 20 single, Torture, which was performed as a duet between Michael and Jermaine, with Jackie singing several parts. In July of 1984, the Jacksons launched their Victory Tour, but the tour was overshadowed by Jackie's leg injury, ticket issues, friction between the brothers, and shake-up in the promotion and marketing team, initially headed by Don King, who was later fired. Michael announced he was leaving the group after their final performance at Dodger Stadium that December. The following January, Marlon Jackson also announced he was leaving the group to pursue a solo career. In 1989, 5 years after their last album, the remaining quartet of Jackie, Tito, Jermaine and Randy released the ill-fated 2300 Jackson Street, which performed badly on the charts. After a brief promotional tour, the band went into hiatus. Later years, in September 2001, nearly 17 years after their last performance together, all six Jackson brothers reunited for 2 performances at Madison Square Garden for a 30th anniversary special commemorating Michael's solo career, which aired in November. In early 2009, the 4 elder brothers began filming a reality show to make their attempt on reuniting the band, later debuting in December 2009 as The Jacksons, a family dynasty. During the middle of the project, Michael had announced his concert comeback in London. Michael would later die that same year in June, putting efforts on halt. Later in 2009, following the death of brother Michael, the surviving Jacksons recorded background vocals for a previously unreleased song, This Is It, which had originally been a demo. The radio-only single was released in October of that same year. The song did not chart on the Billboard Hot 100, but charted at number 19 on Billboard's Hot Adult Contemporary Tracks. This Is It returned the Jacksons to the chart for the first time since 1970, when, billed as the Jackson 5, the group marked its sole previous entry, I'll Be There, which went on to peak on the chart at number 24. The surviving members of the Jacksons were in talks of planning a reunion concert tour for 2010, and were in talks in working on their first new studio album in over 20 years. However, neither plan was put into action. The Jacksons' Unity Tour, in September 2010, Jermaine Jackson held his own tribute concert to Michael in Las Vegas. In 2011, Jackie Jackson released a solo single to iTunes, while Jermaine released his first solo album in 21 years, I Wish You Love. Following the release of one solo album, Marlon Jackson quit the music business in 1989 and invested in real estate. Randy Jackson hasn't been active in the industry since he disbanded the group Randy and the Gypsies in 1991. In August 2011, there appeared to be a discord between the brothers concerning a tribute concert dedicated to Michael. While Jackie, Tito and Marlon were present alongside mother Catherine and sister LaToya for a tribute concert in Cardiff at the Millennium Stadium for a press conference concerning the tour, a couple days after the press conference, both Randy and Jermaine issued a statement announcing the tribute tour as the date of it occurring around the same time of Conrad Murray's manslaughter trial in relation to Michael's death. The show carried on with Jackie, Tito and Marlon performing without Jermaine. In April 2012, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine and Marlon announced that they would reunite for several U.S. concerts for their Unity Tour. 38 dates were announced, however, 11 shows in the United States were cancelled. The tour started at Casino Rama in Rama, Canada on June 20 and ended on December 9 in Osaka, Japan. Legacy. In 1980, the brothers, under their Jackson's moniker, were honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. As the Jackson 5, they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1997 and the Vocal Group Hall of Fame in 1999. Two of the band's recordings are among the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's 500 songs that shaped rock and roll, with the latter track also included in the Grammy Hall of Fame. On September 8, 2008, the Jacksons were honored as BMI icons at the annual BMI Urban Awards. In 1992, Suzanne de Passe, Jermaine Jackson, and Jermaine's then common-law wife Margaret Maldonado, worked with Motown to produce The Jacksons, An American Dream, a 5-hour television miniseries broadcast based on the history of the Jackson family in a 2-part special on ABC. Influenced by The Temptations, The Supremes, James Brown, Frankie Lymon and the Teenagers and Sly and the Family Stone, the group eventually served as the inspiration for several generations of boys bands, including New Edition, Menudo, New Kids on the Block, NSYNC, the Jonas Brothers, Backstreet Boys, and many more. The rise of the Jackson 5 in the 1960s and 1970s coincided with the rise of a very similar band of brothers, the Osmond Brothers. Some considered the Osmonds, who were white, an imitation of the Jacksons. However, the Osmonds actually started a few years before the Jacksons, and were considered an inspiration to them. Joseph Jackson was impressed by the Osmond brothers' early TV appearances and instructed his own sons to study them closely. Eventually, the members of the two families became friends. Michael had a unique sense of humor about him, and told us he was so tired of watching the Osmonds on the Andy Williams Show. He explained this was something their father had them do, and Michael joked he became really tired of it. Band members. Discography. Tours. The Jacksons Tour, Goin' Places Tour, Destiny Tour, Triumph Tour, Victory Tour, Unity Tour, see also. List of best-selling music artists, list of #1 hits, list of artists who reached #1 on the Hot 100, list of #1 dance hits. Notes. References. External links, Jackson 5 documentary on BBC Radio, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame page on the Jackson 5, Jackson 5 Vocal Group Hall of Fame page, the Jackson 5 Video Archive, Jackson 5 on The Ed Sullivan Show.